March 26th brings with it an important event known as the Purple Day. This day is internationally celebrated in order to raise awareness about epilepsy, as well as eradicate the stigma around the disease. A core member of the society who has put countless valuable efforts towards this noble cause. We have with us the respected Dr. Bindu Menon, founder of the Bindu Menon Foundation. Apart from providing assistance in spreading awareness about epilepsy and successfully reducing the treatment gap of neurological disorders, Dr. Bindu works for society as a top neurologist in Elwood. A very warm welcome from NSS NIT Trichy.
Thank you very much, Vijay. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And it is really inspiring for students like you to come and talk about an important topic, especially a neurological disorder like epilepsy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we'll be moving on to the questionnaire session. So the first question of this session, could you comment on the existing awareness work being done for this disease? How much of a need is to increase awareness in this current society?
Vijay, epilepsy is one of the most common neurological disorders. In fact, 1% of the population suffer from epilepsy. It is also very important because epilepsy is engulfed with a lot of stigma, and there is a lot of treatment gap as well. In fact, in our country, if we see around 80 to 90% of the people have a treatment gap for epilepsy. And what I mean by treatment gap is people know that they have epilepsy, but yet they are not taking treatment for epilepsy. One, because of the low awareness. Second, because of the stigma that what would they face if they are diagnosed with epilepsy in the school or in the college or in the office surroundings or in their marital life or in the social background. So it is absolutely important that one knows that epilepsy is a disease which can be treated, and one should go to the hospital and go to the neurologist and go to their physician in time so that the disease can be taken care of in the initial stages itself.
Thank you for your insights, ma'am. So moving on to the next question. So can the symptoms of epilepsy, mainly seizures, be treated or avoided using medications of sorts?
Here, what we should understand, Vijay, is that seizure is something and epilepsy is something. Seizure is a single event. When a person, now what happens is when there is a spark in the brain, that spark leads to an electrical activity and that leads to a seizure for a particular individual. Now that seizure could be like the person can fall down and can have jerky movements of the limbs, can become incontinent and then can be confused and can be lethargic for a pretty long period of time. Or it could be like a complex partial seizure where the patient is confused, has got mumbling words, and then he has got automatic behavior, and he's confused for a pretty long period of time, or an absence spell. So one event is a seizure, and that one event can be due to a multitude of reasons. Like a person can have a high sugar, the patient can have low sugar, the patient can have low sodium, the patient can have certain other infections which could just trigger for that period of time. So they are known as symptomatic seizures. So these ones, if you treat the underlying reason which had led to that particular seizure event is enough. You don't need to have a treatment for a prolonged period of time. But epilepsy is different, Vijay. So what we are saying as epilepsy is if a person has an enduring predisposition to get seizures, like if he has got a seizure, then we find that he can get a seizure again. If he is not being treated, that becomes epilepsy. So now epilepsy is not curable. We can treat it with anti-seizure medicines. Like we can treat the hypertension. We can just keep the blood pressure under control. We can keep the sugar under control. So with lifestyle modifications, they can be probably kept under control. But in epilepsy, you need to take anti-seizure medicines. You are treating the event, you are treating the seizure, and you are not treating the disease. So there is no cure, there is a treatment. However, some people go into remission after a period of time, and they may not need the medications after a period of time.
Understood. So could you inform the listeners about the activities and research projects your foundation has undertaken regarding this disease?
Thank you so much, Vijay, for asking that. In 2013, I started my Dr. Bindu Menon Foundation with the blessings of my parents and a couple of members who as volunteers. This foundation basically was focused on awareness, because as we all understand that unless you are aware about the disease, what are the do's, don'ts, and several other factors for that, one cannot reach the desired treatment for the patient itself. So, and the other part was treatment gap. So our focus was on spreading the awareness so that they understand about the disease, the risk factors of the disease, how they can prevent. And the second was to reach out to people in the unreached and the unmet areas where people are not able to come to the hospital. So if I could say that we started our awareness programs in schools, we started in colleges, we started in social organization, industrial organizations, and to the general public. And we have been able to cover around 180, 190 awareness such programs. In these programs, what we did is we wanted to target. So if we are going to a school, we need to tune our awareness program to the school kids, We can't talk in medical terms. So they just wouldn't understand. So the high school and the colleges, we made a comic. The comic was Na Per Satri in the Telugu language, where we had an artist who came and drew everything, where we depicted that epilepsy, if the person has a seizure, the age-old tradition of keeping the keys in the hand, keeping something in the mouth, and not taking to the doctor, taking to a quack, and just leaving the person like that is not good. You need to take the patient to the hospital. So a pictorial representation is always very important. Then we focused on the preventable forms of epilepsy. And we know that in our country, around 10 to, I should say more than 15 to 20% of the cases are preventable form of epilepsy, in which neurocystic psychosis, the simple tapeworm that produces in children and the adults. Then there is cerebral palsy, that is a hypoxic injury while during the childbirth, and head injuries. So these three were the brunt of our target. And then we made posters, we sent it to hostels, we sent it to schools, we sent it to bus stops, we sent it to railway stations. So everywhere where you look, pictorial representation is always so good, Vijay. So you can see it, and then it just gets an imprint into the mind. So when we moved out from that awareness programs, we thought that we should do something particularly for the epilepsy patients also. And we made an epilepsy help app. Now that app is freely available on the Google Play Store. It has got several icons in which you can keep your medication chart, you can keep your alarm, you can keep your doctor's reminder, you can upload all your medication diary, the doctor's prescription, the images, the EEG charts, everything you can upload. So you have your phone in hand. Everybody has their phone in hand at all times. So if a person gets a seizure and is rushed to the hospital, he need not fumble with what was the investigations, what was the medication, what was the dose you are taking. So you can, this epilepsy help app, Epilepsy, EPILEPSY, HELP. If you could just click on that on the Google Play Store, it is available in 3 languages, English, Hindi, and Telugu. From there, from the awareness programs, we also felt that we need to see about the treatment gap. So the treatment gap, one is we started our foundation camps for the patients who were not able to afford the medications, who were below the poverty line. So every month we give medications to the patient apart from the consultation. And we've just finished our 100th medical camp at the premises of the foundation. After that, we felt that this is the patients are reaching us. So what happens to those patients who are in the rural areas? They are hardly able to come to us. They hardly know what's happening. So then in 2015, we started our Neurology on Wheels project, which is one of its kind in the country, where we follow a motto of we reach, we teach, and we treat. So we reach means we come from the city to you, to the village, to the interior, where the healthcare is not as well and as good. We teach because the whole village comes in to see what is happening in that place. So we take that opportunity to educate them about epilepsy, the causes of epilepsy, the preventable forms of epilepsy, not a stigma, the first aid of epilepsy, and then we treat. We diagnose them, and we carry our EEG machine also there, and we do our EEG there, and in patients whom we require, and then we give them medication and then direct them to the nearby center. These are a couple of things which our foundation does, apart from the other host of activities that we continue to do. It's an ongoing process, and we hope that it makes a mark in the society.
It definitely will, ma'am. Like, thank you for organizing so many events, and like, congratulations on doing your 100th camp.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we on to the next question. What does your organization suggest to people with epilepsy regarding how they can live a normal life, especially since it's a non-curable disease?
Vijay, actually, patients should understand that this is a disease like any other disease. Let them not be self-stigmatized. So most of the time it happens that they themselves are not brave enough to tell that they have got epilepsy. No need to worry about that, because as we keep saying, there are several people with epilepsy, several men and women with epilepsy who had seizures, who had epilepsy and went on to become great. So there, Charles Dickens, one would know that he had epilepsy, but then yes, his books are still, we read. Then we have the Alexander the Great, we have Julius Caesar, we have John T. Rhodes, the cricketer, we have Isaac Newton. One was is a writer, one is a cricketer. So in every field they can. So don't get self-stigmatized. If you have epilepsy, consult your doctor. Find out what is the reason for your seizures, what is the reason for your epilepsy. Most of the patients, even when they are on medication, sometimes they may have a breakthrough seizures. Breakthrough seizures is even if they are taking medications properly, they tend to get seizures. So there are certain trigger elements for that. That is their sleep hygiene, whether they have taken some cross medications along with that, or they have some other triggers, which the hormonal triggers in women, the cycles, hypoglycemia, not eating well, alcohol intake. All of these triggers should be identified so that you can keep your disease under your own control. Get to know from the doctor how long you need to take the medication and how important it is for you to take the medication, because even one single seizure, if it is at an area where your life is endangered, because you might be walking, you might be on the road, you might be climbing the steps, you might be in your washroom, any other area. So it is very important. I understand that it is absolutely difficult for any individual to always keep track and take the medications on time, but there is no other way. You can keep an alarm, and then we suggest our epilepsy help app, because there is an alarm in that. You can keep your alarm in that. So unless you take the medications, do not put off the alarm. So most of the times you put off the alarm and then you go on to do some other work, and then you miss off the medications. You can take and go forward, complete your education. I have patients who have done extremely well. They have been flashed in newspapers where they have been so well, and they have stood on their feet, taken care of their family. Don't get self-stigmatized. There are certain jobs which one would want to avoid, like driving, working on heights, flying, any of those. But then there are only a couple of them, There's so many more avenues one can always step into. We always say, even with fit, you are fit for life. And that's the way one should go about it.
True, and like a lot of the insights you're providing a lot of people won't be aware of all this. So thank you for that. So move on to the next question. What symptoms should a peer or a parent keep in mind to identify the disease? How can they provide a suitable and comfortable environment for the patient?
It is very important that parents treat the child with the amount of respect and care that they treat the other children at home. Why this is very important is that there should be a balance, You shouldn't be overcautious of the child, that the child himself or herself becomes, always in a scared mode that he may get a seizure, he may get a seizure. But then that doesn't mean that you should not be having an eye on the child, because obviously there can be some seizures which can be missed out, and parents are the one who are going to tell us about that. As I mentioned, the mini seizures, as the public might want to say, like complex partial seizures, absence seizures, where the person is just confused, he doesn't fall down. You should encourage your child to read, but ensure that the sleep hygiene is good, because usually some of the seizures get triggered by poor sleep hygiene. That is, they sleep late and they wake up late. They may have 7 hours of sleep, but then it is not in the proper timing. Like they sleep at 2 o'clock and then wake up at 10 o'clock. Especially during this COVID-19 2 years, we saw so many kids following a bad routine. Kindly encourage your children to be active, physically active, not mobile active, not gadget active, because gadgets are one thing which produce a lot of laziness in your child. It also decreases your concentration ability. It also increases, some of the kids get on to the log into the gadgets for a prolonged period of time, and that, because this is an LED, this is a light emitting device. If your kid is continuously on that light emitting device, your sleep will not come. That sleep would not be there. Even if they sleep, it would be continuously disturbed, and a disturbed sleep is a trigger. Any symptom your child has, you need to consult your doctor. Any other doctor, if you're visiting apart from your regular neurologist or your physician, you need to mention that the child has got an epilepsy, because there are certain medications which are not good for your child. They can decrease the threshold of your seizure, and then the seizures can get triggers, like some antibiotics, certain other things. Ensure that the child eats healthy food, because hypoglycemia is something which we are not wanting that the child should have, and that can again trigger a seizure. Ensuring proper compliance and seeing to it that the child himself gets accustomed to the medication is absolutely important. Reading, studying, coming up and doing and excelling in school is something which is absolutely important for any child according to his capability, and that needs to be ensured.
Thank you. So you organize various camp and numerous activities to spread the awareness about epilepsy. What are the struggles you face during the initial stages of your foundation?
Yes, Vijay. In fact, in the earlier stages, I should say that epilepsy per se is engulfed with so much of stigma that even talking about it was a little difficult. Getting through to the people was very difficult. The public was not very much tuned to epilepsy, and hearing about it was something which was very new. So what we ensured is that we talk more, we make the people read more, we make the people hear more, get all their special senses get tuned to epilepsy. You see, you hear, you learn everything. So you put articles on the newspaper, you put posters, you publish comics, you have meetings where you prime people about it. So initially there was a resistance, but I could see that not only me and my colleagues, everybody across, everybody is doing so much. We have an Indian Epilepsy Association, we have an Indian Epilepsy Society. The Indian Epilepsy Association is formed by people who persons with epilepsy, caregivers of epilepsy, people who are interested in epilepsy, who want to make a change in epilepsy. So altogether, I could say that I myself see that across probably in a decade earlier, we had neurocystic psychosis, which was very high. But off lately, we are not seeing that infections very commonly, So there is a change in that. And when we see that change in the family, when you counsel the family, when you give them medications, when the compliance is good, when they are back on the feet, when they get empowered, they stand on the feet, and then the smile on the face and the sense of contentment on the family, that gives us a motivation to work more and more, because all things don't come in a month's time. All things don't come in a year's time. But when you look back over years, you can see that you have made such a change. I would say that from 2013, when we have taken so many people under our umbrella and have been treating them in a general manner is something different as from the foundation as free camps. We can see that they have been able to stand on the feet, they got empowered, and they have back to their lives, and then the whole family stands on the feet. It's not only one individual, and they are not now stigmatized of the epilepsy. They talk about epilepsy. They become, I should say, as ambassadors for epilepsy, because they go out and say that I'm taking medications, I'm doing well now. And I think patients and their caregivers and the general public, they become the motivating force for you to work more and do more.
Thank you. We can just really get to know more about your foundation and how much you spread awareness about epilepsy. Thank you for all of that. So we'll be coming to the final question. How can a person contribute to your initiative? In what way we as a society can volunteer?
Vijay, I suppose talking about it and taking a socio-talk and interviewing people, and I could see that you people are doing immense work as students, and I think budding citizens of the country, you are already on the forefront, because you've already I would not say the first step, you are a couple of steps ahead. And I think this is one platform. Actually, spreading awareness is absolutely important. And as I say, it is important that you take as many people under your umbrella to spread the awareness, spread the message that epilepsy can be treated. And it is important that people go and take the medical advice as early as possible, so that the disease can be kept under control. Learn from your doctor. And as students, I think, in fact, Vijay, this year, International Epilepsy Day, the theme was Love a Person with Epilepsy. So what the message is that let the person stand on his feet, give him equal rights, give him equal social rights, give him equal job rights, give him or her equal marital rights. So you understand that epilepsy is as good as any other disease. If the person is on equal treatment as any other disease, he need not be kept aside for the reason that he has epilepsy. But that doesn't mean that because he has epilepsy, you need to give him extra rights. No, you treat him equal as any other person, because he is as good as any other person. And I think the young generation, you're doing wonderful work. I think the message from your team, which goes across, spreads far and wide. Unlike a person, probably a doctor, when they say students have the power to show that epilepsy is like any other disease. As I said, even with fit, you are fit for life.
Thank you, ma'am. So with that question, we have reached the end of this interview. We hope this social talk helped magnify the awareness efforts about the disease done by the Bindu Menon Foundation. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. On behalf of this progressive and now informative society, we sincerely thank you for your efforts and wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Vijay, and everybody from your team for having me on the show. I wish you all the very best for all your future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.